The gentleman from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the families, again, of those who lost their lives in Benghazi, you have our condolences. And I think the best tribute we can give to those who've lost their lives is to make sure that we make sure this doesn't happen again. And I think that's really the goal of the committee. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Mr. Hicks, especially thank you for your extensive conversation about what happened during the confusion of those first hours, whether the ambassador was at the hospital or the annex, and all of that happened. I can tell you, about 16 years ago, I was backpacking through the Darien Gap in Colombia and woke up to machine gun fire and hand grenades. And at the time, we didn't know what happened. We had paramilitaries on the river, we had guerrillas behind us, and we were caught in between. So I can fully understand the full confusion that happened at that time in your recanting of that, and I think we saw that in the report. What I can tell you, though, Mr. Chairman, is I don't think there's a smoking gun today. I don't even think there's a lukewarm slingshot. What we have is some strong opinions from people who at least I know Mr. Nordstrom and Mr. Hicks both participated in the study, and Mr. Thompson, while he didn't, no one stopped him. No one said he shouldn't go in the study, but we've had a chance to take a look at this, and I think what's really imperative is that we make sure that these recommendations are done, that something concrete comes out of this so that no one else is in this situation. And I think one of the real things that we can do as a committee, as individuals on this committee, is to make sure that we provide adequate funding for security and training to all of our embassies. And I think, that I look at, I'm one of the new folks around here, so when I look at some of the past budgets where we've been asked for literally hundreds of millions of dollars that haven't been approved in a post-9/11 world, I look at that as rather risky. And both Mr. Nordstrom and Mr. Hicks, you both have extensive experience around the world and various places you've been. So looking at this proactively, I think this is probably the 9th or so hearing that the House has had on this issue. So maybe it's time we start looking at how we make sure we protect our embassies the very best way we can, rather than kind of going through and rehashing some of the same old stories. My question specifically for both Mr. Hicks and Mr. Nordstrom are, when it comes to extra training or extra security, do you feel that we need more in some of the embassies across the world, so that make sure that those who are working in there indeed have the very best protections, because we have that responsibility to them as they serve the country? Mr. Hicks?
Thank you. I think there are two things, and I appreciate the question. We in the State Department need more training for our people who are going to these critical threat posts, not only for our diplomatic security agents, but also for our everyday diplomats. We need to be able, in my opening statement, I talked about my experience in Bahrain of developing contacts who helped us get through some very difficult times in 2002 when our embassy was attacked twice and we were experiencing very severe anti-American demonstrations. We have to be able to engage. Our diplomats have to be out on the street. One of the reasons why we were perhaps caught off guard in Benghazi is because, for security purposes, because we had so few personnel there, the consulate was basically on lockdown. And so it was very difficult for our principal officer to get out and mingle with the people and learn what was going on. This was magnified when I talked with a correspondent after the event who had been in Benghazi after 9/11, and the correspondent told me that the people of Benghazi were terrified by these Islamic extremist militias. We didn't have that sense prior to 9/11. And the only way we could have that sense is if we're out on the street. I think Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, Sonnenschein, said it beautifully at the tribute for Ann Smedinghoff last week when she quoted Correspondent Edward R. Murrow about going the last 3 feet. That's what we as diplomats do. So if we're going to be going outside the embassies to meet with people and learn what's going on, we have to have the training to be able to respond rapidly and effectively to a desperate situation. So that's one thing. The other thing I believe that we need to do, and I put this forth as part of my platform in running for office in my speech to the Foreign Service, we need to develop a robust paradigm for analyzing and mitigating risk. and one that is comprehensible to every member of the Emergency Action Committee. And this would be a powerful tool for our regional security officers to be able to develop the kinds of programs and the kinds of activities that we need to mitigate risks that they identify through the use of this paradigm.
Thank you.